Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the final week of our Introduction to Special Education class. I thought that I would use this week's recording to go over the exam. Most of you did have some difficulty with some of the questions, and I thought that by giving you the reasoning behind the answers, that might be helpful. So you may want to stop the video, grab a pen and paper, and take some notes, because I think these are all very important answers that may be helpful for you as you move forward and helpful for you when you do take the Massachusetts State Teachers Test. So question one was, which of the following activities is most likely to be found in a functional curriculum for a student with mental retardation? And the correct answer is learning the proper procedure for shopping and buying groceries. And the reason why this is the correct answer is found in the words functional curriculum. So the key idea here is the functional curriculum is life skills, learning to do things that you need to be successful in life. So the other answers, like learning to sort pegs by colors or sensory integration activities, those aren't applied to those actual real life functions. And the first choice of learning the state capitals, while that's nice to know, that's a very academic task. But the thing that would most help somebody think about in adulthood, that's functional for them, out in life and in the real world, is learning the procedure for shopping and buying groceries. Question two is about explicit instruction, contains all of the following instructional choices except, and the one thing it doesn't contain is self-discovery. Explicit instruction means being very clear and upfront and working directly on a particular skill. So explicit instruction is direct, it looks at a particular task, and the teacher is really the one who is doing the instruction. It's very, think of explicit, it's very clear. The self-discovery part would not be part of explicit instruction because that's more student-directed than teacher-directed, and explicit direct instruction, keep in mind, is a more teacher-directed, regulated form of learning. Question three, the problem with developing a clear definition of emotional and behavioral disorders, really was all of the above, and I think just about everybody got that right, so I won't review that one. Most individuals with autism, the correct answer is have uneven skill development. They have areas which they may have much better skills than with others. And some of you picked out the extraordinary answers, extraordinary memorization, music, math. They may have extraordinary abilities in any of those areas, or they may have typical development in several areas and some real deficits in others. So it's uneven, and it's not with regard to particular skills. Five, which has been suggested as the increasing prevalence of autism, or it's really all of the above, and most of you did get this one correct. There is an actual increase in the true incidence, we believe, that more people are aware of the disorder, and certainly there has been an increase in advocacy. Question six seemed to give some people difficulty about which is an example of a student who has trouble with generalization of learning. And that's being able to take one kind of learning and apply it to something else. And I think I understood why this was confusing, because a lot of people answer, Donald can add 3 digits, but he still can't subtract them. So those really are two different skills, although they're related. The correct answer is he can tie his sneakers, but he can't tie his dress shoes. Or somebody can do something in one setting, but not in another setting. So somebody can write their name on the sign-in sheet, but they can't write their name on their assignment. So think about it being the same skill as opposed to a related skill. Another one that some people had issues with about, again, describing a functional life skill. Again, remember, functional life skills are things that are the real world things. So in this case, the answer was preparing a complete meal. That is a functional life skill. It's something that helps you exist out and function in the real world. And this question, number 8, is related to the one we just talked about explicit instruction, which the answer is, what type of instruction is most effective for teaching students with disabilities? And the answer to that is explicit instruction, being able to break down, having a teacher break down and regulate the learning, and then it can turn into that other kind of instruction, but explicit instruction. And think about how that ties to IDEA. In IDEA, we talk about somebody who has a disability and requires specialized instruction. So think of explicit and specialized sort of in the same bucket, because that bucket, the specialized instruction, is the explicit instruction. A functional analysis, most of you did well in that, identifying the functions of student behavior. And we do that, as we talked about with our proactive behavior this week. If you can figure out why a student is behaving a certain way, then you can decide which principle you're going to use to help have the behavior be what you need it to be. The autism one, people did get correctly. It is a developmental disability. Emotional or behavioral disorders can be divided into 3 groups that are characterized by externalizing behavior, internalizing behavior, and low incidence behavior. Many of you did low incidence, high incidence, and problematic. And I can see where the answer to this question was confusing. And I think it was, you had to read it really carefully, because we're not looking for high incidence behaviors necessarily. It's the things that we see on the outside, on the inside, and occurring, and low incidence behaviors. In addition, question 12, most people got that correct. The question is, in general, all behaviors occur to either obtain, which is positive reinforcement, or avoid negative reinforcement, with the exception of one. And the answer to that is consequences. Some people just, it looked like people did some guessing as far as the students with the most severe intellectual disabilities. Remember that it's a very, very small percentage. It's only 1% of the population that have this severe intellectual disability. This is this next one, question 14, quite a few of you got wrong. Which of the following may not be an example of a student with difficulty with adaptive skills? Most people answered providing a social security number to a telemarketer, which in fact, the correct answer is avoiding eye contact during conversations. And I think what happened here, based on your answers, is a confusion between adaptive skills and functional skills. So functional skills, which would be correct, the providing a social security number to a telemarketer, which I hope no student is doing, that would be more of a functional kind of thing. Adaptive really are the kind of things that are the prerequisite skills. So the avoiding eye contact during a conversation is really very adaptive. A child who has to move around a lot, but is going to go into some kind of career that requires a lot of motion, that would make that moving around a lot be adaptive for them, be useful for them in a particular situation. So eye contact is adaptive, and avoiding it would be a difficulty with an adaptive skill. Question 15 was about multiple severe disabilities, and the correct answer was, if you have multiple severe disabilities, you would require services from multiple related service providers. That is so that is true. I think people miss the except. So the only thing that wouldn't fall into there would be stuttering and disfluency, which is not typically considered a severe disability for disfluency. But I can understand where this one might have confused people, because the word except did change that. And I'm going to move on to which of the following is not an example of a traumatic brain injury? So I guess this one was difficult for people because a stroke isn't a traumatic brain injury. That's a medical occurrence where there's a brain bleed. Um, but a traumatic brain injury is typically something that happens, and I guess you can think of like an external thing that happens to somebody. It's traumatic and happens to the brain. So the answer to this would be, because again, this was an accept, would be a stroke, because that's a medical thing that happens. A head injury, somebody falls off their bicycle. Shaken baby, somebody has done something to the baby. A concussion, you fall and bang your head. So think of them as all external things. And question 19, the federal law regards to gifted and talented requires identifications of students that may be eligible. Keep in mind that gifted and talented, that there's a requirement that children be identified, and there really is no requirement that they receive services or they get any other rights under IDEA other than they be identified. And let's see. And those are the questions that I think that there were issues. There's a few of them I didn't go over because I think everybody did get them correct. As a result of some of the confusions with the questions, I am going to give everybody this week, I'm going to give everybody 8 points additional to their exam because I felt there were a couple of questions that the wording really was difficult and should be worded a little bit better. So I am going to do that. Before I leave you today, I want to let you know how much I've enjoyed this class with all of you. Our discussions have been fabulous. I'm looking forward to reading all of your research papers and all of your observation reflections or your presentations, whichever you choose. Be in touch with me if you have any questions about doing a presentation versus doing a paper. I'd be happy to have a conversation with you. And please make sure you fill out your course evaluation. It's really important for me to have feedback so I know how to make this course better moving forward. And perhaps I will see some of you in the fall in some of the other classes I'm teaching. It really has been a pleasure. And oh, one last thing, hate to end on not a super positive note, but please, please, please remember that all assignments have to be turned in on time this week. I cannot accept any late assignments because I do have to get your grades in. It's been my pleasure getting to know all of you. I love that just about everybody has tried a different way to submit something this week, whether it be a video or a PowerPoint or a Prezi. It's been awesome for me. Take care and be well. Bye-bye.